It's definitely a debate now in terms of what was the motivating factor behind the voluntary members of that deal to accelerate the return of those barrels, because there's some similar parallels between now and 2020. In March 8th, 2020, key leadership of Saudi Arabia decided to surge their production at a time when we had maximum uncertainty on the demand outlook due to COVID. Today, I would say it's similar narrative. While demand growth is hanging in so far, it seems likely and realistic that we're going to see a sharp slowdown if President Trump goes ahead fully with the announced tariffs. And so to accelerate the return of barrels into that environment is confusing. I think the rationale behind the certain decision makers thinking is similar again back in 2020. It's intended to force behavior. It's intended to force compliance. Today, it's the form of several actors who are not holding up their end of the deal. We think that the leadership of Saudi Arabia adheres to their word. Their word is their bond, and you've seen that in very, very strong compliance. And yet certain countries like an Iraq or a Kazakhstan continue to thumb their nose and continue to cheat by several 100,000 barrels per day. It was announced that in March, I think Kazakhstan and Iraq were overproducing by around 400,000 to 500,000 barrels per day. And so collectively, so very, very strong. And so I'm hopeful, although I'm not overly optimistic in terms of a significant improvement in compliance. And I would not rule out further expedition of the return of those barrels. I think this narrative, especially within Saudi Arabia, about fiscal break-evens in the 90s, $90 Brent, and their weakness in that environment, I don't think that is valid. And I think that the ability to weather the current weakness is a show of strength, in fact, to other countries to try to improve that compliance. And so whether it's a sweating, I call it a Kazakh spanking, I'm hopeful that we'll see improved behavior, although in the short term, I'm not overly optimistic on that.